Perfect chicken pulao that won't stick together. If you follow my technique, I guarantee that your pulao will come out perfect every single time. I'm going to start by heating my pan on high heat and adding enough oil to cover the bottom of the pan. Then I'm going to add my chicken. Now for chicken pulao, to get the right flavor, you really do need some chicken pieces that have bone in them. But if you're feeding a crowd that doesn't love bone-in meat, you can do a mix of some legs and some chicken breast as I did here. And if you want to see how I clean my chicken, you can go to my video on how to properly wash chicken to see how I remove the skin and how I give it a thorough cleaning before cooking it. Now we want to allow the chicken to brown on most sides by flipping it every couple of minutes until it's golden on most sides. And while I'm doing that, I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of ginger paste and 2 tablespoons of garlic paste. And then I'm going to add 2 packets of the Shan Masala Punjabi Yakhni Pulao Masala. This adds a really great flavor and it already has salt in it, so there's no need to add additional salt. And I'm making about 4 pounds of chicken here, and I'll be making 5 cups of rice, so 2 packets is perfect for about that much. Then I'm going to add about 9 to 10 cups of water, and we're going to measure our yakhni later, so don't worry too much about it. And I'm also going to add about half an onion in there just for some flavor. Bring it up to a simmer on high heat, and then cover it, and then reduce the heat to medium-low, and simmer for about 30 minutes. While our chicken cooks, I'm going to rinse our rice, and I'm using the Zebra brand Sela Basmati rice. Now, using Sela rice is more important than the brand that you use because Sela Basmati is a better texture than regular Basmati, and it's less likely to stick together. So I'm measuring out 5 cups here, and then I'm going to wash it. And it's important to agitate the rice while you wash it with your hands. And then I'm going to drain it, and then I'm going to do it again. I'm going to do it about 5 or 6 times until the water runs completely clear. This is necessary so that your rice will not stick together. I guarantee if you do this, your rice is not going to stick. But if you don't wash your rice, that is a recipe for disaster, and I don't recommend it. So I always wash my rice. Once you've washed it about 5 or 6 times, you want to drain the water completely out of it as much as you can. And then I lost some rice in the sink, but it's okay. And then we're just going to set that aside until we're ready to cook it. Now I'm just going to slice a large onion in very thin slivers. And this is what we're going to fry before we add the rice. So you need about 1 large onion. You can get away with a little bit less. These onions are really large. These are the ones from Costco. They're huge. So we're going to slice that, and then I have 2 green chilies here, and you don't have to slice them. We're going to put them in whole. They're just going to add a flavor and some aromatics to the pulao. They're not going to make it spicy, but I just took those out and washed them as well. So after 30 minutes, we can lift the lid, and the first thing I'm going to do is make sure that my chicken is tender, and I'm going to check both a breast piece and a leg piece because they are different cuts, and it looks like my breast is tender, so that's good. And then I'm just going to check the leg. I don't want to break that too much though because they're fragile, so I'm just going to stick my fork gently in it and just confirm that it's tender, and it is, so we're good to go. I'm going to remove all of the chicken pieces and set them on a tray, and then I'm going to cover them so that they don't dry out. I'm also going to remove that half an onion, including the skin, and then we're left with the yakhni or the broth and the chicken separate from each other. I placed a large bowl in the sink, and then I put a colander over it, and I'm going to drain my yakhni because there's solid whole spices in there and also some chicken scum that's going to drain out. So I'm just going to drain that, get all of the spices out of the pot because we're going to use this pot again to actually cook the rice. So you want to get everything out of it, and then I'm just going to lift my colander and help it drain everything out of it, and then we're going to be left with just the broth. And you might need to shake it around a little bit to get everything out. So now I'm going to measure out exactly how much broth I need to cook my rice. So my rule for pulao is that you're going to put double the amount of broth per cup of rice minus 1 from the total. So I'm cooking 5 cups of rice. 5 times 2 is 10, and then I'm going to minus 1 from the total, so that's 9 cups of broth. And if you end up with not enough broth to make up the amount of cups that you need, add a little bit of water like I did here. Now I'm going to place the same pot back on the stove, and I'm going to heat some oil on high heat again, and now we're going to fry our onions. The secret to giving the rice that beautiful color is the brownness of the onions. So we're going to fry these for quite a while, about 10 to 15 minutes on high heat while stirring them periodically so that they don't burn. And then when they look brown enough that they are almost to the point of burning, that's when we're going to add the rice. And that is really what you need to do to get the rice to be the color that you want, like that very appetizing golden color of the rice. It's necessary to get your onions that brown, but you have to keep an eye on them because they can burn extremely easily. And if you find the bottom of the pot is getting a little bit dry, you can add a little bit more oil to encourage the onions to fry. And just be mindful of how much oil you put though, because that is going to make your final rice greasier if you have a lot of oil. And then when they look like this, at this point, we can add the rice. See how when I stir it, you can see like the bottom is almost black? That is when we can add our rice and then start toasting it. But you don't want it to smell burnt, so stop before it actually starts to smell like it's burning. And now here I'm going to add my rice, and then we're going to toast this for about 5 minutes until the oil is well incorporated in all of the grains of rice. This is going to help your rice not stick together as well. Toasting it makes a big difference, so I recommend you don't skip this step. After toasting the rice for about 5 minutes, we can add our chicken back, and I'm going to add the breast pieces and mix them in, and then I'm going to place the drumsticks carefully at the top. And I'm only doing that for presentation because when you cook the pulao, the chicken tends to rise to the top. So if you place it in the way that you want it, the dish will just look more aesthetically pleasing. It really doesn't make a difference with the flavor. It's just something I'm doing so that it looks better when I lift the lid. So I'm just going to add our pre-measured broth here, and then I'm going to make sure all of the chicken pieces are buried underneath and that there's no grains of rice outside of the water. Usually I would squeeze half a lemon, but I'm out of lemon, so I'm just going to add 1/8 of a teaspoon of citric acid. So you just need some kind of acid, either a squeeze of lemon or a squeeze of lime or citric acid, but not too much. 1/8 of a teaspoon is plenty. This will help with flavor. Also, it'll help the rice not stick. And then I'm placing those drumsticks on top, like I mentioned earlier. And then we're going to simmer this until almost all of the water is gone from the top of the rice and you see pockets begin to form. And I'm going to show you exactly what that should look like. It'll take about 5 minutes on high heat simmering like this for the water to evaporate to that point. And when it looks like this, you can put the lid on and then we can cook our rice and reduce the heat to medium low for 15 minutes exactly. And then we're going to turn the heat off and allow it to rest for another 15 minutes before lifting the lid. That step is critical. Let the rice rest before you lift the lid. Okay, we cooked the rice for 15 minutes and we let it rest for an additional 15 minutes. So it's been 30 minutes. I'm going to lift the lid and look at how perfectly it cooked. All of the rice grains are completely separate. I hope you enjoyed this video, and that is how you make